Hi. Part 229, Locomotive Safety Code Federal Regulations, Subpart D, Locomotive Crashworthy Design Requirements, Purpose and Scope. The purpose for this subchart is to help the protective locomotive cab occupants in the event the locomotive collides with another locomotive or piece of on-track equipment. The shift load with the freight car and the adjacent parallel track of the high vehicle at high rail grade crossings. The subpart prescribes a minimum crashworthy standard for the locomotive to establish the requirement for obtaining the FRA approval of the new locomotive crashworthy design standards. Change the FRA approved locomotive crashworthy design standards to alternative locomotive crashworthy design. 229.203. Except for the otherwise paragraph as provided in paragraph B and C of this section, the subpart applies to all locomotives manufactured or remanufactured on or after January 1st, 2009. Cabin power cars requirements subpart do not apply to the cab control of multiple unit locomotives, dead multiple unit locomotives, and semi-permanentable coupled power cars that are subject to the design requirements for such locomotives set forth in Part 238 of this chapter. Locomotives are designed service to locomotives and designated service exempt for the requirements for the subpart with the exemption of the statute 229-233 minimum requirements of fuel tank design, which is the minimum remains applicable to such locomotives. 229.205 General requirements. Each wide-nose locomotive used with occupied surface must meet the minimum crashworthiness and performance and requirements set forth in Appendix E of this part. Compliance with the proposed performance and criteria must be established. Meeting the FRA approved the crashworthy design standard, including the ARS 580 locomotive crashworthy requirements. The direction of the Federal Register approved the incorporation reference of the ARS 580 revision July 2005. Locomotive crashworthiness requirements in section in accordance with the Title 5 U.S. Standard Code 552A and Title 1 Code Federation Part 51 with the obtaining of the copy of the incorporated standard for the Association of American Railroads 55 F Street, North Washington, Washington, D.C. 20001 will inspect the copy of the incorporated standard for the Federal Railroad Administration docket clerk at 1200 New Jersey Avenue Southeast, Washington, D.C. 20590. The National Archive of the Record Administration NARA information on the availability of the material of the NARA call 202-741-6030 or archives.gov/Federal Registry /Code of Federal Regulations by IBR locations HTML. Meeting the design standard, changing the existing design standard approved by the FRA pursuant to statute 229.207, or meeting the alternative crashworthy design approved by the FRA pursuant to statute 229.209. The unique sub-unique design locomotive must be designed in accordance with the provision of ARS 580 applicable to those type of locomotives in accordance with the 238.405A, 238.409, 234-11. The chapter in accordance with the standards division approved the FRA provided with the least equivalent safety narrow-nosed locomotive must be designed in accordance with the provisions of the ARS 580 applicable to the type of the locomotive, notwithstanding any limitation for the scope, continue with the standard in accordance with the standard of the design approved by the FRA, provided with the least equivalent safety. 229.206 Design requirements. Each locomotive used for the occupied surface must meet the minimum anti-climber, emergency egresses, emergency interior lighting, interior configuration design requirements set forth the AR 7580 incorporated reference sections to statute 229.205. Not locomotive crashworthy design standards to change in existing FRA-approved locomotive crashworthy design standards. Generally, the following procedure gives consideration acting upon the FRA approval of the new locomotive crashworthy design standards to change for the existing FRA-approved locomotive crashworthy design standards, including the ARS 580 incorporated with the reference statute 229.205. Only standard body of which the top of the FRA-approved locomotive crashworthy design standards may initiate these procedures for the FRA approval to changes to the standard. Petition for the FRA approval of the new locomotive crashworthy design standards. Each petition FRA approval of the locomotive crashworthy design standard must be detailed and be titled petition for the FRA approval of the new locomotive crashworthy design standard must be submitted with the Association Administrative of the Safety of the Federal Railroad Administration, 1200 New Jersey Avenue Southeast Street, Mail Stop 25, Washington, D.C. 20590. Must contain the following: the number, the title, the address, the telephone number, the email address of the primary person contacted with regard to the review of the petition, the proposed locomotive design and standard in detail, the intended type of the surface locomotive design under the provision of the standard, appropriate data, and the analysis showing how the proper design standard either satisfies the requirements required of the two statute 229 and 205, the type of the locomotive design provided at least at equivalent level of safety, the type of the data analysis that considered are described in section 229 211 C1. Petition for the FRA approval of substantive change for the FRA locomotive crashworthy design standard. Each petition of the approval of the substantive change for the FRA approved the locomotive crashworthy design standard must be titled Petition for the FRA approval changes. Locomotive crashworthy design standard must be submitted to the Associated Administrative Safety Federal Administration, 1200 New Jersey Avenue, Southeast Mail Stop 25, Washington, D.C. 20590. Must contain the following: name and title, address, telephone number, email address for the primary reason to be contacted with regard to the review of the petition, the proposed change, the detail, the intended type of the service of the locomotive built when the proposed the change, the appropriate data analysis showing how the resulting standard either satisfies the requirements for the type of the locomotive set forth in Statute 229-205, for at least an equivalent level of safety, type of the data analysis to be considered or described in Statute 229-211C. Petitions. D. For the FRA approval of the non-substantive change for the existing, the FRA approval of the crashworthy design standards. 1. Each for the petition approval of the non-substantive change for the FRA approval of the locomotive crashworthy design standard must be titled the petition of the FRA approval of the non-substantive change for the locomotive crashworthy design standard must be submitted to the Associated Administrative Safety Federal Railroad Administration, 1200 New Jersey Avenue, Southeast Washington, Mail Stop 25, Washington, D.C. 20590. Must contain the following: the name, title, and address, the telephone number, email address of the primary person to be contacted with regard to review of the petition, the proposed change of detail, and the detailed exemption of how the proposed change result in some substantial change in existing FRA-approved crashworthy design standards. The FRA determined the proposed changes in substance of FRA will process petition in accordance with the paragraph C of this section. Statute 229-209, alternative locomotive crashworthy design. Generally, the following procedures govern the consideration action upon the FRA approval of the locomotive crashworthy design, which are not consistent with any of the FRA approved locomotive crashworthy design standards. Petition of the FRA approval of the alternative locomotive crashworthy design. Each petition of the FRA approval of the alternative locomotive crashworthy design must be titled Petition for the FRA approval of the alternative locomotive crashworthy design must be submitted to the Associated Administrative Safety Federal Railroad Administration, 1200 New Jersey Avenue, Southeast Mail Stop 25, Washington, D.C. 20590. Must contain the following: the name, title, address, telephone number, the email address, the primary reason for the contact with regard to the review of the petition, the proposed locomotive crashworthy design, in detail the intended type of the service of the locomotive built under the proposed design, appropriate data analysis, and showing how the design either satisfies shall require the statute 229-255 of the locomotive provides at least the equivalent level of safety, the type of the data analysis to be considered described in statute 229-211C1. Alright, 229-211, process of a petition. Federal Register, the FRA will publish the Federal Register notice of the receipt of each of the petitions submitted under Statute 229-207B and 229-207C and 229-209. Comment: no later than 60 days after the date of the publication of the notice of the Federal Register for the concern of the petition submitted under the Statute 229-207B, 207C, and 209B, any of the person may commit on this petition. Each of the comment must be set forth and specifically on the basis upon which it is made and contain a certain statement of the interest for the commenter in proceeding. Each of the comment must be submitted with the U.S. Department of Transportation docket operation mill M30 of the West Building, ground floor, room 412, 140, 1200 New Jersey Avenue, Southeast Washington, D.C. 20590. Must contain the assigned docket number which they appropriate in the Federal Register for the proceeding. The form of such submission may be written electronically for consisting with standards and requirements established by the Federal Document Management System and posted on the website of the htt://www.regulations.gov. In the event that the FRA requires additional information properly consideration, FRA will conduct the hearing of the petition in accordance with the procedure provided in the Statute 211-25 of this chapter. Disposition of petitions. In order to determine the compliance with the performance criteria of the Appendix E of this part, the FRA considered proper documentation, competent engineering analysis, practical demonstration. Both of them may include the validated computer modeling, structural crushing analysis, component testing, full-scale crash testing, and controlled environmental. Any other combination for the foregoing together with the evidence of effective peer review. The FRA finds that the petition complies with the requirements of this subpart and that its proposed change to the new design standards satisfy the requirements of Statute 229-205 of the type of the locomotive. The petition will grant, and normally within 90 days of the receipt, the petition is neither granted nor denied. Within 90 days, the petition remains pending on the decision the FRA made as a special condition for the granting of the petition. Following the granting of the petition, the FRA may reopen consideration of the petition for the state of any decision granting but denying the petition. Petition is placed on the public docket for the petition. If the FRA finds the petition does not comply with the requirements of the subpart, this is proposed the change new design standard does not satisfy the performance criteria contained in the Appendix E of this subpart, of this part, where applicable, the petition will be denied normally 90 days after the receipt. The petition is neither granted nor denied within 90 days. The petition remains pending on the decision. FRA may reopen denial of a petition for a cause stated. When the FRA grants but denies the petition or reopens consideration of the petition, written notice will be sent to the petitioner and other interested parties, and a copy of the notice will be placed in the public docket for the proceeding. Alright, 229-213 locomotive manufacturer information. Each railroad operating locomotive subject to the requirements for the subpart must retain the following information: the date upon which the locomotive is manufactured, remanufactured, the name of the manufacturer, the remanufacturer of the locomotive, the design specification to which the locomotive is manufactured, remanufactured. The information required in paragraph A of the section must be located permanently in the locomotive cab, provided within 2 business days upon the request of the FRA or an FRA certified state inspector. Statute 229-215. Retention and inspection design. Retention records originally designed by each of the manufacturers and remanufacturers of the locomotive subject to the subpart shall retain all the records of the original locomotive design, including the supporting calculation drawings, pertinent to crash-worthy features required by the subpart. These records must be retained with the lesser period of the life of such a locomotive, except for the records of the locomotive destroyed in a railway equipment accident. Incident shall be retained for at least 12 months following the accident incident, 20 years after the date of the manufacture. If the remanufactured, 20 years after the date of the remanufacture. Retention of the records, repair, and modification. Each owner and leaser of the locomotive subject to the subpart shall retain all the records of repair, modification, crashworthiness features required for the subpart. These reports must be retained by the lesser of the period the life of the such locomotive, except for the records of the locomotive destroyed in a railway equipment accident. Incidents shall be retained for at least 12 months following the accident incident. 20 years after the date of which the repair and modification was performed. C. Inspection records. Each custodian records referred to the paragraph A and B shall be, upon request of the FRA certified state inspector, it may be available for the inspection and duplication within 7 days. Any records referred in paragraph A and B of this section. And D. Third-party storage records. Each of the custodian records referred to in each paragraph A and B of this section may delegate storage to duties to the third party. However, the custodian retains all responsibility for the compliance with this section. Section 229-217 fuel tank. External fuel tanks. Locomotive equipped with external fuel tanks shall be equipped with the minimum comply with the requirements of the AR S5506 performance requirements for the diesel electrical locomotive fuel tanks, October 1st, 2001, except for the section 4.4 of the paragraph does not apply with the locomotive subject to the fuel tank safety requirements in statute 238-223, 238-423. This chapter, the director of the Federal Register approved the incorporation reference of the AR S5506 performance requirements for the diesel electrical locomotive fuel tanks, October 1st, 2001, in section with accordance with the Title 5 U.S. Standard Code 552A. Title 1, Code of Federal Regulation, Part 51, you may obtain a copy of the incorporated standard for the Association of American Records, 50F Street, North Washington, D.C. 200001. You may inspect a copy of the incorporated standard for the Federal Railroad Administration, Docket 1200 New Jersey Avenue, Southeast Washington, D.C. 20590. National Archives Record Administration, NARA. For the more information for the availability of the material, the NRAA, call 202-741-6030 or www.archives.gov, Federal Register, Code of Regulations, IBR locations, HTML. Or your internal fuel tanks. Locomotives equipped with internal fuel tanks shall be at a minimum comply with the requirements of the statute 238-223 of this chapter. Subpart E, locomotive electronics.